Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of MTG with Luke G. I'm your host, Luke G, and I'm back with another episode of Magic the Gathering Learn to Draft. This one is semi-pro. Alright, the first thing I wanted to say was take a look at the other videos for Learn to Draft Basics and Learn to Draft Advanced. This one is for Semi-Pro. This is going to be the follow-up on all the tools that you need to be successful at drafting when you go to Friday Night Magic or whatever tournament you go to. I'm going to try and make this video not too long, but there's about 3 things that I need to cover still. And this one is the first one. Now the first thing I want to talk about is how there are 2 different ways you can go about building your deck. And you can kind of like mix and match and do both of them, or you can do one of them, or you can do the other. And the 2 different ways are hate draft and share draft. Now hate draft is not something that I made up. That's not a term that I made up. Share draft is kind of something I made up. Now, hate drafting is essentially once you have figured out the colors that a player is going, if you feel that his deck is getting too strong and you don't want to pass him like a really good card, and I'll put some pictures of like some really good cards that, you know, would pop up maybe halfway through your first pack that you'd be like, wow, I really don't want him to have another Rebuke, or I really don't want him to have another of this, because you know that's what color he's going. So sometimes it's almost a better choice to pick something that's going to hurt his deck because he's not going to be quite as strong, and it's also going to take it away from you. And then in the end, by the time your third pack comes around, you may end up even switching to his colors because you hate drafted so much, and guess what? Now you just destroyed his deck. That's called hate drafting. So you're essentially, say you started off and you're getting a lot of really good red and white cards, and you're building your deck really nice for red and white, but you notice the guy that's passing you cards is not giving you any black cards. So you decide that you're going to hate draft him when it switches back the other way, because you go left, right, left, remember? So when you switch back to him and now you're passing him cards, you can hate draft, and you can start switching your colors. And if you switch your colors to black and you get a lot of really good black stuff, and you do that, then he's going to get gypped on a lot of stuff now that I'm about to tell you, and that's about share drafting. Now the difference between hate drafting and share drafting is very simple. Hate drafting is a way to make people have a worser deck, or a deck that's not as good. It's about taking cards from them that are going to make their deck better. Now, share drafting is kind of a term that I made up. It's not really like an official term or anything like that, but that's when you just try and make your deck as good as possible. Now, this may go, say there's a card that you really need, like a creature that is going to be really pivotal for your deck, but there's a nice removal spell in there, and you know the ladder, removal is higher up than a nice creature. And you go, wow, I don't want to pass him this removal because I know he's playing this color. That would be called hate drafting. You would grab that card instead of grabbing a card that benefits your deck. But in share drafting, it's giving him that card and making your deck better. Now, the only times that I would say that you should be share drafting the entire extent of the draft is if you're better skilled than anybody at the table. Because say everyone at the table gets a slightly better deck than you. If you're better skilled than them, you're probably going to win still. Unless they just get like some ridiculous bombs, but you can't really do much about that. Now, a good situation for hate drafting would be a situation where you've already established your 2 colors, you already have some pretty good cards going for your deck, and look, you just saw a Rebuke. And this happened to me on Friday when I went to the tournament. I'll give you an update on that at the end of the video, but I saw that someone had passed me a Rebuke like halfway through a pack, which is a pretty good indicator that he's not going white, but the fact is that it's a nice card to have, and it won me like 2 games. But I wasn't going white. White wasn't one of my colors. I was going black-red, just because those are the colors that I was really flourishing in. But if you can get something like that, that's only a 1 white, like say it costs 2 colorless and 1 white, then you only have to have 1 plains and 2 of something else. Then that's what you call splashing. That's when you splash in a third color. Typically when you do a draft, and I've had people ask me a lot of questions about this, typically when you do a draft, you don't want to go too many colors. Now I've seen people go 5 colors before. I had my friend Justin Case here. He's the only person that I've ever seen do 5 colors in a draft and won the draft. It was funny. I wasn't playing in that draft, but he got what we call mana fixtures. And this was back when artifacts were really popular in one of the sets. I don't remember which set it was. And he just did really well. I mean, his whole deck was like an artifact 5-color deck. And he could just he had the mana base for everything because he had mana fixtures. And I'm going to explain what those are right now. I'll go ahead and leave some pictures down below so you can see what I'm talking about with mana fixtures. But mana fixtures are essentially ways of adding mana to your deck without actually adding land. Now, you may get some land, like rare land, like a dual land or something like that you could use instead of a regular land, and that is an option. But there's other guys too, like say there's a guy an artifact creature that's not too bad. He's 2 for a 1/1, and he can tap to add white or something like that. So that guy would be called a mana fixture. It's a way of using the colors in your deck that you already have to add colors to your deck. So that way you don't have to go in the situation where I was on that Friday tournament. I had gotten a lot of red, a lot of black, and I got 2 rebukes, and I'm like, well, I want to splash in for these 2 rebukes. So I did a mana fixture. Now, instead of because the way your land goes is typically you want to have about 24 spell cards and about 16 land, maybe give or take 1 or 2, something like that. But I think that's what my deck was. I think it was 24 creatures and spells and everything like that, and 16 land. Now you don't want to go in order to play, say you draw a rebuke in your opening hand and there's only 3 plains in your entire deck. Now the chance of you drawing a plains, if you do the math, you start with 7 cards, minus 7 from 40 would be 33, and there's 3 plains in your deck. So you have about a 10% chance to draw a plains throughout the course of the game. Now the problem with that, obviously that chance gets higher every time you don't get it, but the problem with that is that if you have a rebuke in your hand, in your opening hand, you want to be able to cast it, but you don't want to put more plains in your deck because you don't want to have more, you don't want to draw plains instead of your main colors of your deck. So that's why you do mana fixtures, because they could be creatures, they could be something useful that can also tap for land or tap for colored mana that you need, and you still have the correct mana on the field that you should have. And that's why those are important. And when Justin had done that tournament, he had so many different mana fixtures that he would tap all of his artifacts and stuff and just create any color mana. I think he got a Chrome Mox or something too, and all that. So that's why his deck worked out pretty well. But normally in a situation when you're in drafting, you want to go 2 colors, maybe 3, very, very unlikely, sometimes 4, only if you get good mana fixtures. And the very last tip/trick that I want to give you for drafting is this. And it's not very hard to figure out or anything like that. It's a very simple concept. But a lot of players, they have a hard time on deciding how many land they need in their deck. Now let's say that you got, you're playing red and black, let's say. And those are the 2 colors you're playing. Now let's say that you have 24 creatures and spells in your deck. And those 24, that leaves 16 left, right? Because you want to have 40 cards in your deck total. So that means that you get 16 lands. Now, does that mean that you go 8 mountains and 8 swamps? No, it doesn't. What you need to do is you need to figure out And a very simple concept is this right here. Take your cards and lay them out in front of you. Put the red with the red, the black with the black, and you want to go on each card, and you want to count the swamp symbol or the mountain symbol on each card. Now let's say you count that up, and this is a very good way of adding a ratio to your deck. You count it up, and the swamps, like say you have 5 black cards and a lot of red cards. So 5 black cards, so if you had 24, that'd be 19 red cards and 5 black cards. Let's just say. You probably wouldn't have that big of a difference, but we'll just say this for the situation. You count the black swamps up, and each one of them costs like X plus 2 swamps. So like say it's like 1 and 2 swamps, 2 and 2 swamps, blah 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 blah. And you got 5 of those. So you count those swamps up, and that's 10 swamps total. Then you count your mountains, but each one is 1 in a mountain, 2 in a mountain, 1 in a mountain, 3 in a mountain. But you still just count those mountains up. Don't think about that other, the colorless. Don't think about that. Count those mountains up. So you got 1 of each of those, right? That's 19. So that means you have 19 mountains and 10 swamps. So that's essentially 2 to 1, which means that you want to have double the amount of mountains in your deck than you do want to have swamps. So you don't just add a couple swamps in your deck. You have to do it like this. So if there's 16, you want to have 10, and I'd say maybe a good number 6 would probably be another good number, because you don't want to do 5 for the swamps, because you do need 2 at one time. So to get 2 out of 5 is a lot harder to get 2 out of 6. So in that situation, if I was playing 19 red cards and 5 black cards, I would play 6 swamps and 10 mountains. And that's how you figure out that. The reason why that is so important is because let's say you have 24 cards in your deck, and 12 are red cards, and 12 are black cards. So then you would go, well, Luke, then that just means I go 8 mountains and 8 swamps. No, it doesn't. Because when you count up how hard it is to cast those cards, because you have to have 2 swamps, or you have to have 2 mountains plus colorless in order to do that, it gets harder. Because then your opening hand, you could have a bunch of red cards in your hand, let's say, and you have 2 swamps and a mountain. Okay, you have a mountain, but look, those cards, those red cards, are 2 mountains required to cast those. So you could be sitting around forever waiting for a mountain if you went with the exact same mana base that it looks like you should have went, but that's not how it goes. You count up each one, and that's how you determine. Alright guys, I'm glad you liked these videos, and I liked all the criticism and stuff you give me back, and tips and tricks of your own that you send me, and I'm going to leave my email at the bottom down here. You can send me whatever you want. If you want to just email me and tell me that you love my videos, or you want to email me like a deck list for me to look over, or you want to email me and ask me questions, or email me and say you're going to give me money to make my show better. Hint, hint. Anyway, a little update on the weekend. I did go to Friday Night Magic with 3 of my friends. There's about 30 people there total. There was 2 pods for drafting, pod 1 and pod 2, 15 people each. My friend Justin Casier, which is one of the top ranked players in Canada, he was in one pod, and me and my friend Jesse Weston were in the other pod. Me and my friend Jesse Weston both went undefeated. We had played each other in the finals. I ended up beating him. So what I kind of did is, because we're friends, I will only do this with a friend, is I split with him, so I got more points and he got more packs. And the funny thing is Jesse Weston, while we were drafting, opened up a Liliana of the Veil, which is a $75 card up in Canada, which was crazy. And then in his opening packs, the packs that he won, he got another Liliana of the Veil. It was ridiculous. He got a $150 value for spending $12 to get into the tournament. So ridiculous. Definitely a good night for all of us. Justin ended up winning his pod too. So Justin won his pod, we won our pod, and we all got good packs, got good cards, got everything, had a good time, and it was great. So I just want to thank everybody for watching these series of videos, and I have some more videos coming up soon. I have this deck that I'm actually looking at right now that has been really popular, and in provincials has been doing really well, and even beating like the top decks, and it looks like it's the big front runner deck coming up, and I'm going to post what that deck is in my very next video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.